Hey there guys, welcome to DG Gaming Tips and loving the TT2 game so far and the new bike handling physics. So much so, I thought I'd give you 10 more tips on faster times. If you haven't watched my first 10 tips video, then probably best to go and watch that first, because this is going to be an extension of it. Little bit of overlap on some of the points are in that video and on some of the comments I've made on subsequent videos, but only in messages that I think the people learning need to hear again. But yeah, should be good. Come on, let's do it. Tip number one is fast corner exits. Really what I'm talking about is the optimal bike racing line. Don't be fooled into thinking that late hard braking into the dark depths of the corner is going to be the fastest path through it. Probably easiest if I demonstrate. The behaviour is more typically seen when you're racing other bikes. There's a strong temptation to brake late and hard to get past the riders and then deal with the corner afterwards. And while that kind of looked okay in terms of speed, you can see how that red rider's getting away from me. And same again on this corner. Now compare it to this. Better start obviously, but a much faster corner exit. And same again on this corner. Rewind please. Brush off the speed leading up to the corner, take the racing line, clip the apex and then hard on the power again all the way out. Tip number two is tiny turns. On Top Gear you see it all the time with the Formula 1 drivers doing the least amount of movement, the tiny turns.
Don't scrub any speed through these fast ones. Turn in lightly, here we go.
Let's have it again, Mark. And the same is true, if not more so, on this bike racing game. Doing the least amount of turning on the optimal racing line means you'll take the corner at its fastest and the whole thing will be far less dramatic and reduces your chances of crashing. And again, like I mentioned on the last video, a lot of it is mastering the joystick hold and micro turns to get you through the corner smoothly. And then compare it to this, where the rider's pushing too far left and right and it's creating a snaking effect, and at times the bike's almost completely out of control. Correcting a snaking turn whilst going over a hump, not advisable. Inevitable. And tip number three is what I'm calling dodge lean in. I'm talking about curbs and wall avoidance by doing a last minute leaning in to the thing that you're trying to avoid. I'm struggling to think in real life bike handling how it's even possible, but in the game physics it works, so I'm going to continue to use it. Case in point just there, rewind please. You see I was getting pretty close to that curb, and just to be sure I didn't hit it, I leaned in more to the right, which has the game effect of moving the wheels out of the way. Bit weird, I know, and if this was a car racing game you'd do the opposite, you'd turn left a little bit and then back onto the right. Anyway, another example, heading down to the bottom Bray Hill. I was heading too close to that corner curb, so I leaned in more to get the wheels out of the way. Of course this technique comes at a small price in that you'll have to correct that stronger lean after you've avoided the obstacle, but usually it works out okay. And then one final example and similar story with walls. Heading too close to the wall, so leaned in to avoid it. Weird. Anyway, that's dodge lean in. Tip number four is one of my favourites, which is half power. I spoke about this one quite a lot on my 16-minute lap video, and it's an absolute belter for those who are still memorising the nuances of every corner, and for those who haven't perfected the racing lines. I'll show you a few bits of the track where half power worked really well for me and helps me to avoid a load of crashes. This little section at Greeba Castle can be quite tricky if you're taking in too much speed and not getting a nice smooth left to right and then hard power out again. So half power in fourth is about the right speed for me until I perfect it. Keep some power going down onto that back wheel for good traction, and then over time I'll just get better and move up to 2/3 or even full power and not do that basically. And the reason for using half power is it's not too crazy in the revs and the possibility of wheel spin if you're in a lower gear. And the other reason is this series of corners at Greeba Castle and many others around the course are best taken at a set speed rather than going fast and slow as shown in this example. I mean, it works, but there's more concentration effort needed and there's a higher risk of crashing. Ultimately, it's not the racing line that you need to be getting better and better at. And then a few more examples. This section at the Hawthorn's a little bit difficult to see where the corner comes, so half power makes it easier to take. And similar again at Harold's. And same story at Ballig Bridge and onto Doran's Bend. Anyway, I think you get the gist of it. Tip number 5 is don't give it 110%, and flipping hell, I'm speaking from experience here because most of my TT gaming life has been spent playing those first 2 or 3 sections. I mean, absolutely you need to give it the maximum beans to understand where your current skill limit is and where are the risky corners that you can't take at full speed. But once you've established that, dial it down a bit. Dial it down to about 95% and you'll find you stand a much better chance of getting around a full lap without too many crashes. Classic indicators of where you're pushing too hard are if you're regularly clipping curbs or worse, going onto pavement, regularly crashing at the same corners, not remembering the course properly and doing late drastic turns out of corners, and not setting or remembering your visual braking points to kill off the speed before the bends. Let me talk you through this section and point a few things out. That red circle and that wall and yellow barrier is my visual braking point to kill off the right amount of speed before the bridge. And then give it the maximum Dave on parts of the track where you don't have any problems crashing. No problem with that. And then this corner coming up, a gradual lean to the left. I can take it at full speed in 6 if I'm really concentrating. But on the full lap where you're kind of a bit mentally exhausted, I've had too many crashes there, so what I do is I just let off the power a little bit and then back on it again, and it massively increases my chances of getting around it. And then here, as soon as I see that house appear, I know that's my visual braking point, down to 4th and get ready to do a smooth right to left to right to left to right. And then here I always struggle to pick out where that slight left turn is, so I ease off the gas a little bit. Visual braking point at the red flag. Anyway, that's what 95% looks like for me on the risky bits. Tip number 6 is gear drop down in corners, getting down to the right gear to enable a fast corner exit. And you'll be familiar with the initial set-off and the leisurely pace the engine takes to get up to the red line in first. But once you're up into the high revs, the gears and the engine power band is in the right place to give you the fastest acceleration. And the same is true of every corner that you exit. If you leave it in too high gear, the engine will take more time to build up to get to the red line. Let's have a corner example. Excuse the crash, but this near right angle corner at Ballacrane, I can take it in 3rd and it's pretty smooth. But you can hear how long it's taken to get back up to the high revs again. And that's a clear indicator that you've dropped down to the wrong gear. So let's see it again, dropping down to 2nd. Instantly into the red, exiting the corner and staying in the red for every gear shift up. Nice. Tip number 7 is bike selection. I don't know why, but I always tend to gravitate towards these BMW superbikes. I like the look of the fairing, I like the sound of it, I like the way it handles. It is a little bit of a handful and a bit twitchy, all the better in TT2, but there's probably better bikes to choose if you want to get a faster time on the overall lap. This 2019 BMW S1000RR tops out at about 190, but it's got good brakes and it's pretty sharp in the corners. I'll speed it up to show that in a good section I can do a low 121 on this bike. If I nailed every corner I could probably get it into the 120 something. Still embarrassingly low if I look at the leaderboards. But on my TT1 videos I got a lot of comments about stop using that twitchy BMW, try the Kawasaki instead, it's a lot more stable. So let's give that a go. Takes a bit longer to get up to the high revs in first. But quick through the gears, not sure whether that's a short gear ratio or accelerating faster. Tops out at about 190, about the same as the BMW. Feels a little bit more stable, but not massively compared to the BMW and TT2. Brakes not quite as good, or is that my imagination? Anyway, speed it up, and the best I could get after quite a lot of tries was a mid 122. But there must be something about this bike because everybody in the leaderboard is riding a Kawasaki. Maybe it's because they've gone through the career mode and upgraded the engine and other bits, or maybe it's just because I've got piss poor skills. Let's have a look at the Norton. Hello! I really wanted this to be the bike that I practiced on to get into the 15-something minute lap times. But it's a bit crazy. I mean, the danging thing is doing over 190 at the bottom of Bray Hill, and it probably tops out over 200. It's like a wild beast. Lovely popping noise from the exhaust there. Bit sluggish to move from side to side. Christ, it's distracting the amount of commotion that's going on. That turbulent section was a low 123. I've done a 119 in TT1 on this bike, and if you could get control of it over a full lap it would be a quick bike, but it's a big if. Interesting, what do we have here? What the f***? Domino's just called and asked for its pizza delivery bike back? That fairing and those gloves. That's the sort of thing Beldar Conehead would ride. Piss take aside, it's very light, very nimble, and sounds like a leaf blower. Tops out about 180, and it's going to be brilliant in the corners. Just a bit handicapped on the long straight sections. That corner just there, folks, is all you need to know about this bike. Absolutely no fear wanging it into the corners. Super late braking because it's so light. Gives you the confidence to do anything. Anyway, let's speed it up and see how it did. Mid 121 without much practice, that'll easily do a sub 120 if you learn how to wang that kind of bike. It's quite different to the other heavier super bikes. And then quick look at these remaining two. This is the Honda CBR 1000RR. Bit of a weird fairing, sounds meaty, loads of power, really good brakes. Yeah, it's a credible contender. And another 121 time, not much practice, but yeah, nice bike. Sounds a bit weird. Looks a bit weird. Looks like an adventure tourer with a couple of GoPros on it. Handles alright though. Not a huge amount to say about it other than that. Another 121 time, not much practice, didn't really nail the corners properly. But yeah, credible time, but not really enjoying the feel of the bike as much as the others. So that's the bike selection roundup. It seems like the Kawasaki is king on the leaderboards. Still enjoy the BMW, and it's not too different in the speed for me. Would love to ride the Norton around the whole track, but probably have a nervous breakdown by the end of it. Tip number 8 is revisiting the mechanical aids. In the first tips video, I said that you needed to increase them to a point that reduced your chance of crashes. And that's still true if you're learning. But as you get better, you rely less on the mechanical aids, and there's no point leaving them on because they are ultimately slowing you down a fraction. And you can hear the aid kicking in. It's stopping you from having maximum power, either for wheelie or for traction control reasons. So these are the riding style settings that I've got in TT2. And that tends to work for me, but I wonder what happens if I turn off the ABS traction control system and stoppie control system to off and drop the wheelie control to medium. Has my skills evolved enough to handle the lack of those mechanical aids? No. Okay, I remember, lean forward. Christ. Okay, less acceleration away from the start. And we're off. So far so good. Whoa! Popping mini wheelies on every hump. Good thing is you can hear the engine, it's flat out, it's not being interfered with by the aids. Not too bad if you take the hump straight. Bloody hell, bit of manic on the hard braking. Easy, Tiger. Bloody hell, the damn thing's trying to kill me. Right, that's not going to work, is it? Let's turn a smidge of anti-braking lock on. See if that's better at quarter bridge. Bit better, but it's still too unstable with either the traction control or the anti-stoppie system off. I'm faster with them turned on. Interesting how the bike didn't wheelie when I was hard accelerating out of the curve on a lean. Same result in the hard braking. I can't live with that. We need a bit more mechanical aid. Oh, screw it. I need all of this turned to low, I think. Okay, here we go. All on low and anti-wheelie on medium. I'll speed through the non-eventful bits. Change up earlier than usual to second, stop the wheelie. Had to let off the power over that hump. It's too crazy with the wheelie with the full power on. So, a bit of slipstream at the end. I'm not sure if that makes a difference, but that's the fastest time I've ever done it. So definitely turning down the anti-wheelie mechanism has made a little difference. Allows me to go faster, but it's a lot more work. It's a lot more concentration. Don't think I'm at the skill level to do the full lap with that on medium, but I will work towards it. Tip number 9 is watch other better riders. If you want to know where the lap time ninjas hang out, then a lot of them are on this private TT Isle of Man Ride on the Edge players page. And there's a bit of bants, a lot of piss taking, and regular posts about fast lap times, screenshots, and fast lap time videos. And the reason I'm calling this out as a tip is once you stop crashing on the full lap, you'll find that you'll sort of maybe stagnate a bit on the lap time, unless you're going to continue to improve your technique. And it can be difficult to improve your technique when you get comfortable with your way of how you take corners. But one way is to look at how other riders take them, other faster riders, and see if they're doing better lines, better gear selections, and getting the faster time that way. I'll show an excerpt from a TT2 fast lap video by one racer, hope he doesn't mind. But this is a good example of fast time, 15.09 on the Norton. And yeah, doing super clean fast lines, much better than I can do at the moment. But reassuring to see that he's using the half power technique rather than going flat out in every corner. And shout out to Russ Lappin and Dan Fielden and more for their TT1 fast lap videos. A lot of great stuff out there, a lot to learn from. Finally, tip number 10 is a bit of a culmination of those previous 19 tips, which is to man up, but gradually. Memorise the course thoroughly, pick out your visual aids for cornering and braking, perfect your racing lines, do tiny turns. And then once you get to the point where you're putting in respectable lap times and there's very few crashes, then keep repeating it, but push those 95% corners, shave off those sub-seconds. And it'll all tot up on the full course to give you a faster time. So that's it guys, give me a like if that was useful or entertaining, and consider subscribing if you want to hear about more of my new videos coming soon.